It takes him into zero.
A real boxer, a real world champion boxer. That the only other time he was in for the fans to get mad with that was against Fury's Tommy Fury, but it wasn't that level, obviously, and all the size things you just rightfully pointed out. But he would have been in there with, it's...
Ahead of his fight with Jake Paul, Gervonta Tank Davis has surprised fans with his impressive new physique. Known for his power and compact frame, he's visibly gained muscle and focus, leading many to believe he's preparing to match Paul's size and strength.
So much about him fighting someone, fight somebody your size. His next opponent is, by far, the most credentialed guy ever fought actively in his prime. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. He fights at 130.
Gervonta Tank Davis has reportedly turned his training into a full-scale battle against weakness ahead of his fight with Jake Paul. He's focused on strength, sparring and conditioning to build noticeable size while keeping his trademark speed. Reports suggest he's added heavy resistance training and compound lifts to bulk up his upper body and core, while sparring with larger, more physical partners to prepare for opponents closer to heavyweight size.
Yeah. This Santa Cruz I hit the deck. Yeah, let it burn, baby, let it burn.
Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter. Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. Nigga trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
Camera.
Okay, light camera action.
And fighting for light action. Camera.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Remember that gun? They got that gun on that tank. They go time.
When the night is cold.
He ain't gonna keep you here late tonight. Good job.
It's been hard being away from my daughter. She actually here, she sleep. Just being away from her, it was a little touchy, but I know what I'm up against. I know that I got pay-per-view. I know I'm fighting a tough opponent, so really I know how to lock in. I know how to shy away from everything. I know how to, I know how to fool around.
I said 10.
No, don't do that.
The fight rules set a 195-pound limit and require both boxers to wear 12 Oz gloves, giving Jake Paul, naturally the bigger fighter, an advantage. Gervonta Tank Davis, who usually competes around 135 pounds, faces a major size and strength challenge. Critics worry that the added weight might affect his trademark speed and explosiveness, which have long defined his fighting style.
Jake Paul, Tank Davis fight got moved to Miami.
I think Jake wins.
Jake's just so big, dude.
I think Jake wins.
This is different because it's similar. It's similar to Logan versus Mayweather, but Jake Paul now obviously is way more advanced than where Logan was at that moment in time.
I mean,
Gervonta
it's
is
just,
fucking sick.
I mean, yeah, no, but dude,
You
Jake,
ever watch his highlights?
Jake can
He's
crack,
nasty,
man.
bro.
He's so sick. I love that guy, bro.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do. That it doesn't make any difference. That boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Hank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Hank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he...
UFC CEO Dana White said a Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight could favor Davis but lacks real fan excitement. He noted that Davis might use the bout to regain attention, though Paul's size and strength could pose major challenges. White suggested it would test Davis's ability to handle a much bigger opponent rather than just his boxing skill.
Jake Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's where I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole. And he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight and says something to the effect that, hey, he was talking to Logan Paul and said, hey, when you were fighting Floyd, you know, there was this, you're a gigantic guy, big size difference. There was a time when Floyd Mayweather Jr. hit, had an overhand right that landed flush on Logan Paul.
Former UFC star and bare-knuckle fighter Mike Perry shared his blunt thoughts on the rumored Gervonta Tank Davis versus Jake Paul fight. He questioned whether Davis still has the same hunger that once made him a champion, calling the matchup a cash grab instead of a real boxing challenge. Perry suggested that Davis seems more focused on fame and money than legacy, even hinting that Jake Paul's drive might now surpass his. His comments sparked debate among fans about Davis's true motivation.
Jake is big, Tank has a lot of skill, but I don't think he's the same Tank that we saw the most incredible knockouts. We saw him, Lamont Roach performed great. They went to draw, and, I just don't know. And Tank walked away. I don't know if he loves it enough to beat a guy who outweighs him by 80 to 100 pounds.
Gervonta Tank Davis, usually a confident knockout artist, appeared unusually uneasy during his face-off with Jake Paul. Observers noticed his tense posture, limited eye contact, and forced calmness, suggesting the clear size difference between the two may have unsettled him. While some saw signs of doubt, others believed Davis was simply staying focused and composed before the challenge-ahead boxing.
He looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it
Analyst Teddy Atlas highlighted the huge size gap between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis, joking that Davis would need a ladder to reach Paul's chin. He said the mismatch looks more like a spectacle than a fair boxing contest due to Davis's smaller frame and shorter reach.
They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract. But I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but a little different. The size difference was, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm gonna ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm gonna ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, AKA Thunder Lips. It was Thunder Lips back there. And I thought I had it right, and it was confirmed to me.
When asked about the rumored Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight, Shakur Stevenson called it a bad look for boxing. The undefeated champion said it's just a money grab, not a real test of skill, and that the major size difference turns it into more of a show than a genuine contest.
Maybe he'll fight Jake Paul instead. What do you think of that?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
I get it, because at the end of the day, it's the money business, and you want to make the most money, but from what I'm hearing, he can make more money in a fight with me, and if that's the case, why not fight me?
Sure. Do you think he beats Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah.
It's a huge size advantage, though.
It is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now. And in the right situation, I also could see him become a world champion.
Really?
According to Leonard Ellerby, Tank had already faced a lot of personal difficulties and didn't want to add to his burden at that moment. Fans expected the battle to materialize, but it never did because of this lack of enthusiasm. According to Ellerby, Tank was more concerned with running his personal affairs than establishing himself in the ring, and separating from Roach was a means of avoiding needless pressure.
He said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it, and he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach, and that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Jake Paul often prioritizes promotion over true competition, picking opponents who create buzz rather than chasing titles. A potential fight with Gervonta Tank Davis highlights this, as Paul's size, reach, and weight give him a major advantage over the smaller, 130-pound Davis.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who is training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury, but it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy 1st round knockout for me.
MMA veteran Nate Diaz dismissed the rumored Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight, calling it a pay-per-view spectacle rather than a real sporting event. He criticized modern boxing for focusing too much on profit-driven matchups, saying such fights prioritize entertainment over true competition.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
It just. I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually.
You think
I'm
it's
not
a good
hating
fight?
on the fight, but I think. My thoughts on it is let's watch and see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. What do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and it's getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight actually.
Michael Bisping criticized Jake Paul for targeting Gervonta Tank Davis despite their huge weight gap, calling it another example of boxing turning into spectacle over real competition.
That is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers.
Do you think this fight is a thrilling crossover event, or just another gimmick that undermines boxing's reputation?